Right, now, talking about gossip, we're now going to chat to somebody that Anna and I met in Harrods. How many years ago?
Gosh, I think that would have been circa 2010 to 2011.
Well, her name is Donna Wills. She was working in Harrods in the grooming department, and she has now written a book called The Best Goodbye. It's a true story of love and farewell. We talk a lot about grief over our pets on this show. Last week we had a nurse from the Blue Cross, where they run a bereavement line, actually. And I don't think enough is written about or spoken about, because we've always said, Anna and I, it's a completely different form of grief to the grief of a human. When you lose your pet, it's because they are with you all the time. They see you, they know your moods, they read you all the time. So it is such an enormous loss. Well, Donna has been writing about the grief that she experienced after the death of her beloved dog, Logan. She's an award-winning animal physiotherapist and a veterinary nurse, and I'm really pleased to say she joins us on Barking at the Moon. Hello, Donna.
Hello, thank you so much for having me back here. I am absolutely thrilled to be back here after, yes, it has been a surprising amount of time, hasn't it?
Can we just talk about when I first met you, and that was with Anna, actually, in Harrods. And I mean, even that has changed, because Harrods no longer has a pet department, does it?
That's right, exactly. I was there as the physio for the whole time that the pet spa was in place. And then sadly, they closed it, and that was that. So it was many years ago. Great for me. I had tons of other stuff to do, so I've been busy. But yeah, it is a shame that it's gone.
So I'm fascinated to hear more about this book, because this was something that you were dreading, the death of Logan. And is that what inspired you to write it?
Absolutely, I was dreading it wholly and completely. But I wouldn't say that was entirely, like, at that point where I was really scared. That wasn't the point where I thought, I'll write a book one day. Actually, it was much later on. So it was actually 2 years after I'd lost him that I was basically being triggered again by that wealth of emotion, and I started crying again, and then I started telling myself off. I was like, for goodness sake, it's been 2 years. What are you doing? Just pull yourself together, and saying all those typical lines to myself. And then I got annoyed with myself, because I was like, why can't I be sad? Why can't I be grieving? My boy was my biggest part of my world. Actually, it's okay. And then I had this whole internal monologue going whilst crying, and it all got a huge wealth of emotion in my gut. And I just thought, I've got to do something to sort this out. And so I put pen to paper and started writing little things down. And then that was when the book was born, because I sat and I wrote and I wrote and wrote and wrote. And then I realised, actually, I think I'm not the only person to feel like this. And I cried a lot writing my book. And I thought that I need to make this a book for other people to read as well, which I then did. And I'm very proud of it.
Anna.
Donna, yeah. I mean, look, I've read this, and there's a little sentence from me in the book, I think. And what I think this is so honest. You and Logan shared an extraordinary chapter together. And it's wonderful that you've noted it down for everyone to share, because, yes, it totally resonates. But where it's perhaps a bit different, I think, is because of your veterinary nurse background. You know, you were able to see suddenly. I think this is interesting so many ways, so I must clarify what I'm saying here. Mainly also because a lot of people at the moment, they have dogs that are 4 years old. And this is a book that can prepare people for what sadly is inevitable, I think. I wouldn't call this a self-help book, but, you know, your pages at the end are so useful, because they're actually giving tips to people in the future.
How interesting. Like
Drink
what?
enough water. Keep drinking water. You may want to borrow some vases from your neighbours, because you may get, I've had this experience, an unexpected amount of flowers delivered, and may not be able to know what to do with them when that moment comes. Understanding your dog and seeing how you just know that perhaps things are changing, and that you have to be strong, and there's something you can do to change what is about to happen, but it is how you deal with it, and the planning is the key part. Have I done that justice, Donna? I just think it is such a helpful read to people.
Thank you. You absolutely have done it justice, because That's exactly right. I mean, I didn't want it to be a to-do list for everybody. I wanted people to understand exactly where this had come from, where these ideas had come from. And it's not an exhaustive list at all. It's not everybody, it's not a you must do this. It's literally my journey. It's my story of how Logan and I got so bonded, our life together, our love, and how just closeness. And then yes, I talk very much about how I started to feel that pre-grief, how I buried my head in the sand, just like everybody does, so that people can just understand that it's something we all do, and then how I started to do the planning and what I had to do for that planning, because that planning's hard. And I share that story with everybody because I had a unique situation in that I had COVID in the way, but there's always something that is your unique situation that you have to navigate around. And then it does talk about, those final times, those final hours, the final week, the final days, final hours, and then the time that passes afterwards, those hours, those days again. And yes, then there's that list at the end, which I'm proud to have put in. And it is just ideas and stuff, so that you just feel a bit prepared, feel a bit like you've got some things around you, some, like telling your neighbours, so that they don't come out the door all happy as Larry and say, oh, how are you doing? Yeah. And you'll just burst into tears. So telling people that you think might be part of your world means that you don't have to face those moments in an unprepared way. And
there's this really moving picture of you sitting with him by the lake in his final days. I mean, Anna's going to get emotional. He's in his coat and he's lying and it's just the two of you, and it's having those quiet times just to really appreciate him and your pet. Just to remove yourself from, just to go and sit in nature, and you can see how he's so loving it. And these were in his final days, weren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, that was all part of my planning, was that we wanted to go and spend some real last moments having some great memories. And, so we went to one of his favourite places to walk, and we took the bed out so that we knew that, because I was taking him in a buggy, and I took the bed, and me and my husband went out, and we just sat by the lake, and it was a beautiful day. The sun was pouring in, even though it was January and it was freezing cold. So yes, he had his coat on, he had a blanket, and he was all wrapped up. And he just stared over the lake, and they were some beautiful photos because we took the time to do that. And we just sat there for a couple of hours, and we had a little picnic, and it was just beautiful times. And we will never forget those moments. And I hold them and cherish them so dearly.
As Anna said, she's endorsed this book. I can't read what you wrote, Anna, because I just get too upset. But there are lots of people giving it 5 stars, saying this will support so many carers, and we're all carers for our animals. And Anna is absolutely right. No one has ever written a book like this before, really. And it is that whole thing. And you saying about, I had that with my neighbours saying, "Where's Matilda?" And I just had to say, "I'm sorry, she's not with me." It's awful.
It's very difficult.
Yeah,
it is so difficult. And I think you've been very honest in this, and I hope it helps lots of people.
Donna, thank you so much. The book is called The Best Goodbye, and it's been written by Donna Wills. So Google that, The Best Goodbye by Donna Wills. And 5 stars all round. A fantastic read, and a much needed read as well. Very quickly, we're going to take one final call because we've got someone listening to us who's on a bus.